Good evening, everybody. I am April Brown with Zelken Financial Services, LLC, and I'm back. Today, instead of doing my tip, my today's illuminated point, I decided to do a interview with Blake Essary, this handsome gentleman on the screen with me. Blake is the co-owner and founder of Stronghold Wealth Partners out of Arizona. Y'all are in what, near Gilbert?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Gilbert and Scottsdale area. Yeah.
Scottsdale area. Yes. And so I wanted him to come on the program today and just kind of give some highlight reels and talk about just who he is, where he comes from, how he ended up here. And so my very first question, I've got three because we don't keep this too long. My first question for you, Blake, is this. Give us a little background about who you are and just kind of where you come from and that thing.
Well, that's a pretty broad question, but I'll dive into some stuff. Is your next question going to be how I got into financial services?
Of course it is.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Arizona, been in Arizona my entire life, one of the few natives in Arizona. I grew up with a great family, great mom and dad, brother and sister. And initially, and I was actually homeschooled. I always like to throw that little tidbit out there. So some of us turn out normal from the homeschool world and can communicate. April's looking at me like, I don't know about that. I don't know. Blake's got some quirks. But yeah, so my background as far as growing up came from a very entrepreneurial background. My parents flipped real estate as long as I can remember. My grandpa owned and started multiple businesses, so came from a very entrepreneurial background, and always have loved that. Always loved building something. Always loved kind of having that glass ceiling. The harder you work, the more you put in, and long story short, I think in the back of my mind, I always thought I would be in real estate like my parents. And then as 2008 affected many of us in many different ways, 2008 affected my parents. My grandpa lost multiple properties. My brother and I had actually just bought a property together as an investment, ended up losing that in 2008. So kind of had to go back and reinvent myself and ended up going into the nursing field. So I spent about 10 years in the medical field, most of that as a nurse, and the primary amount of that in the intensive care unit, particularly the trauma unit. So yeah, that's where I kind of got my teeth. So it seems like a far stretch from being in the financial services world now, but that's kind of how I grew up and spent a lot of time in medical. So yeah, that's how I got here in a roundabout way.
That's pretty cool. You're a nurse. Well, I know if I get hurt, who I'll go to.
Nope, I've hung that hat up. That I can't do that anymore.
Well, you're actually useful always when I'm like, hey, Blake, I got a client who's got such and such. Are they going to make it? Are they going to get through? And he's like, no, or yeah, April, that's fine. Yeah, that'll work. I was like, okay, so he's great for that. All right,
The
the next.
nursing background has definitely helped with what we do for sure with life insurance and such.
Oh yeah, I'm sure because half the time it's like, what kind of medication is that? And in my mind, I'm like, I know who I'm going to text. I'm going to text Blake. Hey Blake, what does this mean exactly? You're just like, ooh, no, that's not going to
Right.
work. Or
We're
it
not a
will.
problem. Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. Yep. It's come in handy, so I've been able to translate some of those nursing skills over to this world.
that's pretty cool. So, how did you fall into financial services?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest question that I get when I tell people I came from the medical field. Um, I think the biggest thing for me first to understand is that everything that I've really done with my career, at least from medical to now, it seems like a big jump and a big change, but both of them you're taking care of people. And where I used to I took care of people in the hospital physically. Now I get to take care of somebody's financial health, right? So in a lot of ways, it's very similar. We're still taking care of people. So I think in my mind, I never saw it as big of a difference as it initially seems when you go medical. Now you're in finance, right? But I got into it, kind of going back to what I talked about at the beginning with being very entrepreneurial, is I kind of hit a point in my career in the nursing world where I was a charge nurse in the trauma ICU. I was the youngest charge nurse by age in the ICU, and also the youngest charge nurse by years of experience in the ICU. And so I'd kind of hit the pinnacle of my career. I only had my associate's degree, and I was contemplating, do I go back to school, become a nurse practitioner? I even contemplating going back and going to medical school. And that kind of goes back to the fact that, hey, if I'm going to go all in on this type of medical career, I want to be able to open my own clinic and do everything. So I even considered medical school, and none of it, medical school sounded like too long when I was already 30, going back to school for 10 and 12 years. I was like, no, I think that that doesn't sound fun. And the nurse practitioner thing, they make great money, don't get me wrong, but you still work nights, holidays, weekends, you still clock in, make a great living, but there's still a ceiling there. And going back to my entrepreneurial roots, I was like, that just doesn't sound fun. So my mom was doing health insurance at the time, and I was telling her what I was trying to figure out. I'm 30 years old and trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And she was doing health insurance. She's like, hey, maybe you should check out what I'm doing. You'd be great with it, especially with your background. So I started attending meetings, got my health and life licenses at that time, and spent about 9 months where I was building my book of business on the health insurance side, strictly focusing on health insurance, and working at the hospital on the night shift. Did that for about 9 months, built up my book of business to a point where I felt like I could leave the hospital and focus full time. And then during networking and things of that nature, promoting my health insurance business, I met Jason Stock, my current business partner, and he shared with me what we do now in the financial services world. And my mind was just absolutely blown when I left that first meeting with him, when he shared with me the type of tax planning he's doing and what the capability is with life insurance policies. And I left that meeting going, this is what I want to do. Health insurance was fine, but it's it's more of a product sale. Somebody has a specific need and you may have a product that fits that need. Where with financial services, I've always loved things like chess, that, complex, trying to figure something out. And that's what our world is in the financial services. You have somebody sit down in front of you, they share their situation, and then you've got to figure out the tools that fit best for their situation and come up with those solutions. So I love that aspect of what we do, that kind of puzzle piece that you're putting it together for somebody. So I just immediately fell in love with it and just went all in on the financial services side. And same thing, I kept doing the health insurance while I was learning the financial services. And eventually to this point now, I don't really do much, if any, health insurance. I usually refer that out and focus strictly on the financial services side. So that's kind of how I got into this industry. It was just meeting people and learned about it and immediately fell in love with it.
Very cool. Well, you get kudos for that health piece, because I can't see it, honey. I'm like, woo, that's
and it is a lot. Yeah, it is a lot. And it's not as fun. Like I said, it's more of it's a product sale, right? Somebody has a specific need and you may have a product that fits. A great industry can be a great career. But I really love the complexity of what we do and the puzzle piece aspect of what we do, for sure. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Very cool. So my third question for you is, why did you start Stronghold Wealth Partners?
That's another loaded question. So Jason and I were working through another firm, and we were contemplating, working through that firm or going off and starting our own thing. We talked about it for quite a while before we actually decided to pull the trigger on starting our own firm. A lot of it went back to wanting to be able to have anything and everything available to us. We had brought things to the table to the other firm that we wanted to incorporate in our planning, and the firm said, no, we don't want to add those different things. And so we launched it for one big reason, is we wanted to be able to look at any individual investment or company and go, hey, is this good for the client? If it's good for the client, I want to look at it and possibly add it. That was huge. And then we just had some stuff, everybody has a story in the financial services world where we just kind of butted heads with our firm, and we decided, you know what, we're going to go off and start our own thing. And we really contemplated whether just to open up a mom and pop shop, quote unquote, the two of us, and just really focus on, high end financial planning and tax planning. But we'd always had this business model that we're currently running. I learned about this comp model that we're running almost initially when I met Jason. And the firm we were with was running kind of a pseudo version of this, but not the full version. And we always had in the back of our mind how amazing it could be for agents and advisors in the industry to get fairly compensated and be very transparent. And so we decided to pull the trigger instead of just the two of us going off and doing a small mom and pop firm to launch it. Knew a lot of agents in the industry that had some of the same complaints and things that we did. And so when we launched Stronghold, we launched with 40 or 50 agents that basically came with us day one. So we saw that need, and April is one of them, right? So we saw that need, and we decided, what, we really saw the benefits of this compensation model and what it could do for our industry as a whole, and what it could do for agents. And so we decided, hey, we're not going to just do a mom and pop shop with the two of us. We're going to launch this with a full blown thing, and ended up again launching with 40 to 50 agents day one, which was a huge blessing and super exciting. And we just continue to grow from there. But one thing that was really important to us was, and we talk about this all the time, there's a lot of firms out there that I think do really good things by their clients, a lot of great planning. But I think what the industry is really lacking is transparency, good training for the agents and advisors themselves. So we wanted a company that we already knew we were doing really good things for clients, and we're always improving and making those things for clients better. And that's the most important. But the second thing was having a company that agents and advisors can thrive while taking care of their clients in the same way. So we really wanted to launch something that a company that's based on transparency and integrity. And if you look at our business model and how it works, you'll be able to see that it's 100% transparent on what Stronghold's making and what the agent has the opportunity to make. So that was huge for us, of just building something where we would want to be partnered with, right? So that was really the goal.
Well, I'll say for Zelken Financial Services, LLC, when I actually plugged into you guys, I was like, oh, okay. And then as I've been growing my agency, one of the things that's been really interesting is when I'm talking to other people and they're like, you did what? And and the crazy part is I've known people throughout my career before I came into financial services in law enforcement who were selling insurance. So, I have a friend who pop up and be like, I'm selling insurance, buy something from me. And then they'd be in it for like 6 months, maybe a year. And then all of a sudden they were gone and they were doing something else. And I was like, well, what happened? And they were just like, oh my God, I couldn't get any traction and I couldn't really make any money that was going to sustain me and my family. So I just had to leave that and do something else. And so working, just with Stronghold as the financial firm has been really great for me, because I've walked into a comp model, which is like, all right, I know what I got to make in order to like 100%. So that's one piece. But I also like the fact that like the group as a whole is really, they're very helpful. It's a lot of learning on, your people are willing to teach if you're willing to learn. And so I'm always like, like, what are y'all doing? What's going on? I need to know what's happening. But what's been great is when I need an answer, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna text somebody. Somebody's got to respond, and somebody will respond, and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's been a good fit. I'm glad I decided to like just take the leap, and that's part of that is because I followed Bobby Alford, into just this whole thing, and he's the person who I've been, really working with and who's been my mentor. But also I've worked with Blake. Blake has been really wonderful, and he normally will answer my calls. And if he can't, he'll send me a text message. And every now and then he does forget about me. I don't know why. And
I think that's pretty rare, though. I think that's pretty rare.
It is. He's like, April,
it's hard to forget about you, April.
Thank you. Thank you. And so I am this has been a really interesting journey, especially, connecting to a new company because you guys are new and you're establishing your footing. And what's been really fascinating is just kind of like some of the investment pieces that we use, some of the products that we use. People are like, that ain't real. That is not real. And I'm like, it is real. I'm telling you. So what I'm realizing is that you're like, you probably people are just kind of like, what is the real deal? And you're like, no, we're transparent, and this is what I'm going to earn, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is how we keep in contact, and so on and so forth. So it's been crazy because people are like, I haven't seen my agent in years. And I was just like, wait. And so even if they're selling PNC, they're like, yo, they sold it to me and I haven't seen them. I haven't talked to them. Only time I talk to them is when it's time to renew, if I hear from them. And so what's been really cool to me is, just the what you all expect for the agents to do. And well, listen, it is your company, but we also want you to be transparent and make sure you're making contact and staying connected with your clients, because that's really important. And so you get that message as, when we have our trainings and you're talking about this kind of stuff. And it's like, certain things that you hear constantly and consistently, which is really, a very cool thing to me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's been awesome to see you because you're a perfect example of what we're trying to do. And hopefully Stronghold's played a small part in that, but, fairly compensating, Zelken Financial and therefore yourself, providing training, getting people up and running. And you're a shining example of what we want to do, because now you're able to impact so many lives. It's awesome to watch. So, and you've come so far. It's been awesome watching you grow, April. So it's been awesome.
This what's been really cool is my assistant is like, I'm gonna get my license. And I was like, okay, well, when you do, she was like, I want to stay under Zelken Financial Services. And I was like, wait, that means I'm growing a team. I, I wasn't anticipating that. And so, but then part of it is, as I'm goal setting and thinking about where I want to be in the next 10 years, in order for me to get there, I cannot do it by myself. So I know that I have to grow a team. So if I'm growing a team, I want to grow a team with a comp model and under a financial firm that is going to be supportive and really help my folks get to where they need to get to, and, do the things that they need to do in terms of like moving the needle. And so this has been really cool. So
Yeah.
other than that, really have any more questions for you? It was just three. 3 is the minimum. Just keeps it quick and simple. I want to say thank you for coming on my YouTube channel, because I do have one.
Awesome. You're welcome.
Thanks
for having me.
Yeah. So I am April Brown with Zelken Financial Services LLC. And thank you for listening and watching us. And have a great evening. Thank you, Blake. Again, Blake Essary with Stronghold Wealth Partners. Look them up if you're in Arizona. They're great. All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.